became more accessible with the introduction of a new grant in October of last year. This is the Native Tree Area Scheme, which allows landowners to plant up to a hectare of woodland without the need for a licence. And back in November, we spoke to Stephen Meyen, who's a Teagasc forestry advisor, and we were inundated with questions about this scheme. So we've asked Stephen to come back to answer more of those questions today. Good morning, Stephen.
Good morning, Claire.
Good to have you back with us. And it's worth having you remind us why native forests are so important.
Native forests are really important basically because of the very high ecological value that they bring. And we have so native woodlands left in Ireland that is really important. And I think it's a great idea for the Department of Agriculture to fund the creation of a fast-track approach for the creation of native woodlands.
So give us the overview then of this scheme that we first mentioned late last year. Remind us about the key parts of it.
Okay, basically it doesn't matter if you're a farmer or not a farmer, but if you have some farmed land that you would like to convert into a native woodland, you can do so. The process here is a fast-track approach. Approval should come through in a couple of weeks' time. You can plant native trees up to 1 hectare. If there's a river, lake or a pond on the farm, you can also combine that with another hectare. So the maximum is actually 1 + 1 hectare on the one farm holding. And if you also include or allow for open areas and so on, you can actually bring up the maximum to 2.3 hectares.
Okay, so it goes beyond the 1 hectare if you have some water on the land. Is that how it works?
Yeah, exactly, because again, you know, like when you think about native woodlands, they're so important from an ecological point, but if you actually could connect them, one woodland to another, so that you can create that interconnectivity in the landscape, that basically wildlife, flora, fauna can actually travel across the landscape, that's actually where the real ecological value is. So therefore the department is encouraging people to create riparian woodlands. You know, that's what we call them, you know, long, narrow strips of woodland along rivers to actually connect one habitat to another. And that is, ecologically, it's powerful stuff.
Now, the land as it stands, if somebody is looking out at their land at the moment, does it need to be farmed right now, or can it be just sitting there unused?
Well, it should be farmed, but then again, you know, you can either farm land in an intensive way, but you can also farm it in a more extensive way. Maybe, you know, some people will be grazing animals on the land, but other people, they'll just maybe cut silage of it.
Yeah.
So there's a wide variety of, well, I suppose there are different ways how you can farm land. So I think the definition is quite broad.
Okay, but if it's your garden, that doesn't fall under this scheme?
No.
Or a golf course that's unused or something like that?
No, it has to be farmed in one way or another, either intensive or extensive.
Now, people listening to this who might think, well, that might be a nice little earner for me. What do you say to those people who are going into this for the money?
Well, first of all, yes, they're right. Like, it is good money because there is a very attractive grant available to actually get the whole show going, basically establish your woodland, and you'll also be paid for looking after it for the first 4 years, so that's great. And then in addition to that, you'll also be receiving approximately, well, between 2,200 and 2,300 euro per hectare per year for a period of 10 years. So that's pretty good money. However, you know yourself, you're like, you never get free lunch. There are always, strings attached. And what you do need to consider carefully before you go and create a lovely, wonderful native woodland is that woodland is going to stay there forever. So you must be happy that you want to create a woodland and that you'll be leaving that to your children and your children, which from an ecological point is, again, as I say, it's really important, but it is important to understand that you cannot remove that woodland and do something else with the land in 10 years' time when the money runs out or whatever. So you must be happy that creating a native woodland is right for you.
Mm-hmm. You have to make sure that this is a decision that's going to suit you in the long term. So, Stephen, let's go to somebody who is perhaps thinking about applying for this scheme. Where did they begin?
Okay, and actually what we'll be doing is my colleagues and I are organizing a range, about 40 clinics around the country. So if somebody is thinking about this, I would suggest that they ring their local Teagasc office to make a booking, because or to book an appointment, I should say, because there we will be able to talk to people in a private way. We can listen to what they would like to achieve, how they want to go about it, and the phone numbers for the various Teagasc offices around the country, you can find that on our website, teagasc.ie/forestry.
Okay, in the meantime though, they can check, can't they, on the Department of Agriculture website to see if the land that they have is suitable for this?
No, they can't. It's only the way to check if the land is eligible or not is only available to registered users, and my colleagues and I, we're registered, and we can do that for
so
people.
you need to go to a Teagasc forestry advisor to check whether your land is suitable or not, and they will do that.
Yes, exactly. We will do that, and then we can also kind of explain, the various things that you need to keep in mind, because it's important, because it's a big step. It's something that needs to be considered carefully.
Mm-hmm. And so you're not going to be able to apply for this yourself. You are going to need some help.
Exactly, correct. Because basically what we'll do is we'll give you independent, objective information. On that basis, you'll be able to make an informed decision, and then we will be referring the people who are really interested and keen to make such an application. We'll refer them to registered foresters. They're either forestry consultants or foresters working for forestry companies, and those people will act as the agent to the applicant, and they'll process the paper. Well, it's not paperwork; it's kind of digitally done these days. But they'll be processing the application. As I said earlier, hopefully the application will come through in a matter of weeks. Once that approval comes through, then with the help of your registered forester, you can get going and start planting your small native woodland.
Okay, listener would like to know if there are any restrictions, Stephen, for boggy land or areas where there are wildlife.
Good question, because this specific scheme, the Native Tree Area Scheme, is only eligible on mineral type of land. So boggy land, basically peaty type of soil, will not be eligible. But there are other options there, because beside the Native Tree Area Scheme, we also have the other scheme. That it's called the Afforestation Scheme. And there you have actually a much wider options available for creating a woodland, sometimes on particular types of boggy land as well, or marginal land.
Mm-hmm. That's a more complex process, though. The reason why this one is attractive is because it's a fast track one, isn't it?
Yep, that's correct. Absolutely, because as I said earlier, the scheme became available in early October, I think, and since then there already have been approvals, so we know it's working. We know that it will happen in a couple of weeks' time, a number of weeks' time. But the other process also works very well. But you're right, it does take a bit longer, because there you will have to keep in mind that it may be 6 months to a year and a half for the whole licensing process to take place.
Okay, now I'm going to run through some questions that are coming in here. Coleman would like to know if the Native Forest Scheme is equally treated in special areas of conservation.
No, special areas of conservation or special protection areas, SPAs and SACs as we call them, there it will not be possible, because in those areas planting trees, and that's correct for the whole country, planting trees is a notifiable action, so those areas will not be eligible.
They're not included. Can you ask, Stephen, how close to a house you can plant these trees?
Okay, if it's your own house or indeed your own outbuilding or a shed or a barn or so, then the distance from the wall of the house, not the boundary of your property, but from the wall of the house is 30 meters. If it's a neighbor's house, then the distance will be increased and then it has to be 60 meters unless the neighbor says, oh yeah, this is great.
Yeah.
I would love to see a woodland here next door to me, and in that case, if they're happy to say so in writing, then the distance can be reduced from 60 metres to 30 metres.
Okay, this is an interesting question, not strictly related to this scheme, but it asks, will there be a woodland scheme for areas of land left over from the building of motorways, improved roads and rail beds?
And actually, the answer is yes, and it's there already, because that would be under the afforestation scheme, where you would have one of the forest types, because there are 12 forest types that you can apply for under the afforestation scheme, and there is a scheme that is called forest on public lands. Mm-hmm. So let's say local authorities, state agencies, they can consider creating woodlands on that type of land, obviously taking into account all restrictions or so that may or may not be applicable to a particular site. But yes, there are definitely options there for creating woodlands on that type of land as well.
Stephen, thank you very much for taking all of those questions. The scheme is called the Native Tree Area Scheme, and if you want more information in the first instance, you should go to teagasc.ie, and as Stephen said, there will be clinics held around the country, 40 or so of them coming up, where you can get more information, but you'll find a certain amount of information there on the website as of now, teagasc.ie. Now